loyalty to the empire. War had released a powerful genie from a bottle: African nationalism.
World War II was a turning point in terms of the relationship between all the colonized people of Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Because World War II destroyed systematically the invincibility of the Europeans.
They suddenly found that these white people who back home in Nigeria, they had sometimes deified, they basically lived completely unequal existences. And suddenly they found in places like Burma that they were just as human as anyone else. They were brave, they were cowards, they did everything any human being did. And when they went back to Africa, my father's generation, quite a few of them became really politicized and took part in the struggle that ultimately culminated in independence.
Africans were about to get a global platform for their struggle. With the war's end in 1945, the world powers pledged never again in the form of the United Nations. The new UN Charter explicitly promised self-sovereignty, with a committee dedicated to hear the grievances of colonized peoples. Throughout the 1930s, an economic depression had loomed over Europe, and the running costs of colonial administrations had soared since the start of the war. At the same time, Europe's economic crisis devalued the prices of Africa's raw goods. War-torn economies now buckled under the burden of running colonies overseas. The driver of colonialism once again became a catalyst for change: money.
Britain was bankrupt after the Second World War, and it simply couldn't afford to go on running them. My grandfather was then working in the Gold Coast, and he was sending rice and ground nuts back to his 4 sons in Britain. And they write pathetically grateful letters. Thank you for sending us this food. And I think the irony of that is amazing. Africa feeding very hungry Britain.
But even as late as the 1950s, many in Europe allowed themselves to believe the empire could endure.
The visit of the Great White Queen that touched the Nigerian imagination.
Instead, the colonial powers were about to discover that exposing their subjects to world events had planted the seeds of their own rapid downfall.
The European, being in the position of power, had one yardstick. He didn't use anybody else's yardstick. His yardstick was the yardstick. But what has happened, and most Europeans don't realize it, time has changed.
With this new sense of dignity and this new sense of self-respect, a new Negro came into being with a new determination to suffer, to struggle, to sacrifice, and even to die if necessary in order to be free.
And as the people in Africa and Asia get some power of their own, they get a mind of their own. The European yardstick now isn't necessarily the yardstick.
The Negro came to feel that he was somebody.
Race had emerged as the top.
So I played that at the beginning because, man, it never, how shall I put it? It never ceases to amaze me that these same MAGA people, these same British Tommy Robinson people, these same Belgians, these same Canadians don't realize that they're the authors of what's going on in their countries, that they're the ones responsible for what is happening in their countries. They point the blame at, us, right? But they never point the blame at themselves for doing what they did to us. You heard basically that during World War II, you know, or the aftermath of World War II was bankruptcy, in essence, you know. That's basically what happened. In bankruptcy of the African colonies. But even to their demise, they were still trying to hold on to African economies, things like that. I make this you know, I know this sounds crazy and things like that, but this is all connected with just the events going on in the world. You know, while Islam does discourage nationalism, you know, there is good nationalism, right? Good nationalism in the sense that you respect yourself and you respect your homeland enough not to let people impose their ideology while dangling aid in your face. For example, Ibrahim Traore said, you know, we're not having no alphabet soup in our country. It's not allowed. Alphabet soup is not allowed in our country. Now, this may, you know, hinder him from receiving aid, but again, he's doing things on his terms. And it's sad to say, but they want you to think like them. And the problem is they want you to think like them. They want you to even act like them, but they still won't accept you as, you know, they still won't accept you as equal to them. Here's some evidence of such. Hold on just a minute. Let me see.
What I really like about the U of A is that it's such a big school, but I also get
cool. They had lots of things that that Europe needed.
But in the new industrial era, the value of Africa rocketed, not only for materials and strategic trade routes, but also as a market for the goods it now produced in bulk. Africa was an opportunity.
The Africans wanted to trade right from the word go. They wanted to sell their labor. From Malawi.
And just reported to the district officer.
As the dark side of ruling by proxy gradually came to light.
One of the problems with independence when it came was that the colonial powers hadn't ruled Nigerians as Nigerians. They ruled them as Hausa people or Yoruba people or Igbo people, and Kenyans as Kenyans, but as Kikuyu or Luo people. And suddenly they all had to be Kenyans, Nigerians. And very quickly the politicians naturally looked to their own people for their political power base, and politics became very ethnicized.
In the 30 years which followed the Year of Africa...
So when you look at this, right, when you look at this aspect, you know, me, I'm Fulani, but if the person can do the job, it matters not what tribe he's from. It doesn't matter. But unfortunately, we use the playbook. You know, we took the playbook of the European where, you know, they use the tribe. And it's the same thing with Americans, with the white Americans. What the white Americans do, and I've heard this being said to me, you know, I've heard this has actually been said to me. I know how to code switch, you know, I know how to talk a certain way with others, and then I know how to talk another way with other people. Many white people said, oh, you're not like the other black people. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? you're not loud, you're not doing all of these things, this, that, and the fourth, you're not, you know. And I proceeded to say, I can show you people who are, you know, who are African descendant and maybe not continental Africans who act the exact same way as me based on the society they grew up in, based on what they saw. So this is another thing that this is another game that they try to play, you know. It's as if, and this is really my beef with them. This is my main beef with them, okay? My main beef with them is they blame others for the problems that they caused, okay? For example, we look at what's going on in the Middle East, we look at what's going on in these places, and it's like, did you not find that certain groups that are causing discord? Did you not arm certain groups that are causing discord? Did you not support these groups medically causing discord? And then they turn around and then blame the people for things that they gaslit. It's really very difficult for me, right? It's very, very difficult for me to look at these people as separate from the Israeli entity, because they do the same playbook, okay? For example, the war on Islam, okay? The war on just people who look different, who have a different life or have a different way of viewing things or a different worldview that's not their own. And then they have the nerve to say, oh, why do these people not like us? Why do these people hate us? And this, that, and the fourth. It's like, bro, if you try to impose something that is not even working for you on other people, then what are we saying here? You know, like, what are we doing here? It doesn't even work for you guys, okay? The fact of the matter is, the fact that you guys are even having fertility issues right now is showing that it's not working for you, okay? The fact that there is a gender war is showing that it's not working for you. A gender war that you engineered, okay? A gender war that you basically wanted everybody else to experience, that didn't even need to experience it because they already had gender relations that were already in place. This just goes to show you, okay, how dysfunctional these people are. And then they want to mess around and now say that they are the standard. How are you the standard, okay, when you have no standards in your games and things like that? So I'm making this video because I want to, you know, segue back to the black athlete, but also want to segue back to the Muslim, okay? Islam, because you heard the speech with Malcolm X, you know, the more that El-Hajj Malik Shabazz Rahimahullah, the more he became politically aware, right? The more he became politically aware, right? The more they tried to, the more they tried to take him out, and eventually they succeeded at doing so. Okay, the more he read, the more dangerous he became. And so this is what you're dealing with, and this is what I deal with on Instagram or on other media circuits. Is when you read, for example, when you read about Islam, when you read that your neck of the woods in the Sahel had many ulama, that even when your neck of the woods, some Arabs had to be students who came from Mecca to teach in your neck of the woods. When you read that abolition of slavery and enslavement of Muslims was halted by revolutionary people, then you realize that you have everything you need to build like Africa. Okay. When you read about, for example, even in other parts of the Muslim world, the great figures in other parts of the Muslim world, then you realize that you have a power, you have something, okay? You have to cling to it. And what I mean by this is the Islam, the real Islam, not the one that the white feminist convert, the extremist Wahhabi, and the worst one, the South Asian feminist man is trying to destroy. Because most of it is, I hate to say it, most of it is just it's like South Asians who are doing these kind of shenanigans, basically. You know, I hate to, put them out there like that, but I rarely see any African Muslims pushing some of the talking points of like the South Asian man, When you realize, for example, guys like Umar, guys like Uthman, guys like Ali, guys like Ubadah ibn Samit, guys like Abdullah ibn Masud, guys like Abu Huraira, guys like that, they left the blueprint behind for you. They left what you need to do. But the problem is, here's the problem. And I'm going to end this video with this. You know the path yourself, right? You know the path. You have the machete, right, to chop down the path, to chop everything in the way of the path. But the problem is the field is filled with so many damn leaves to cut down that it becomes exhausting, and you probably won't be able to cut down those leaves until the end of time comes, when the main person to cut down those leaves is going to come and do so. The leaves are feminism. The leaves are the gender war. The leaves are neocolonialism. The leaves the leaves are white exceptionalism. Things like that, right? You try to cut them all down, but you can't do so. So this is why I made this video, just to show that when you're self-aware, you're gonna be public enemy number one. And me, I'm still, everybody has to seek knowledge, And me, I'm still trying to get more knowledge myself. You know what I mean? But this is the main fear of the, of the powers that be. And you see it with athletes. These people think that athletes are just supposed to be dumb, supposed to be a certain type of way. But for example, what Terrence Crawford did, and I'm gonna keep on putting this in the videos because I'm still not over what Terrence Crawford did. But what Terrence Crawford did requires a certain amount of intelligence, because when it comes to boxing, you not only have to be quick of hands, quick of feet, you have to be quick of mind. And so what he did means that he thinks quicker than probably your average Billy Bob Thornton, which means his IQ may be even higher than that. Billy Bob likes to talk about IQs and stuff like that, but he never mentions speed of thought, And if you have speed of thought, that means you have a very, very high IQ. But with this being said, it just means that these people will never change, and you should not bother with them. And I hate to say it, I will go as far as to say, stop doing dawah in the West. These people don't want what you have to offer, because what you have to offer goes against everything they stand for. So stop doing dawah in the West. That's just my opinion, With that being said, Fula signing out. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Let me know if you want me to go live. I just need, I will go live, but I just need more people to engage, to make it not one-sided. You know what I mean? But anyhow, Fula signing out. Injarama.